been out and about, been meeting members of the public, along with the Royton Independent.
So the Prime Minister goes, the First Minister in Scotland goes. It's only a matter of time. It is only a matter of time.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
A very, very, very good evening. Sunday, the 11th of June 2023. This is a Recusant 9 transmission. It is the last of the Sunday night free-to-air transmissions. I know some of you are upgrading to the YouTube subscription model. I hope you figure it out. If you don't, by all means, drop me a message and I'll probably confuse you even more. I think all I'm asking for members of the rabble to do is, and those are those of you who are on the Ghost page or the Patron still, some of you are still on the Patron page, I think, with a paid subscription. It doesn't matter if it's £1, £3, £5, £10, or even if you're direct debiting towards me. If you can, then please subscribe via YouTube. It's I'm asking you to subscribe for 99 pence. I get 66 pence of it, and I'll put it towards the Christmas drinks, Christmas meal that we will all have. This will stop other people from accessing it who want my content for free. I've tried my best. Honestly, people, I have tried my best to try and get our subscriptions up and to keep everything, just all of it, free to air. And the most valuable of the content, I think, is the Sunday night transmissions. It's what I put the most effort. Actually, it's not what I put the most effort into. It's the written work I put the most effort into. But it's the one with the highest level of engagement. So people can pay 99 pence, can't they? So, you know, if you're an existing Rabble member somewhere else, please do subscribe to the 99 pence tier. And if you're not, there's a tier. The tiers start at £2.99, £5, £6, I don't know. There's a range of tiers up there, but you pick the one you can afford. I'd like to think that most people can afford 99 pence a month. I'm told, Sheila, you've got to, if it doesn't appear on however you're watching YouTube, you might have to open YouTube in a browser, I'm told, to see that link. But enough of you figured it out, and I'm not picking on anyone, but I think, you know, who can I pick on? That's won't mind. If David can figure it out, I'm sure everyone else can figure it out. How about that, David? How's your knee, by the way, mate? I hope it's getting a bit better. Okay, I want to start by playing something. So let me get this right. And I don't want to see me, so I want that.
Hi, my name is Maggie Hurley, and as you may remember, back in May I was elected as the Royton South Independent Councillor. I've been really busy since then. I've been finding my feet and learning more about my role as a local councillor to represent the people here in my ward. I've been out and about, been meeting members of the public, along with the Royton Independent volunteers, and we've been working really hard. Been dealing with a variety of issues, and in the days and weeks to come, I will let you know exactly what we have been doing and who we have been helping here in Royton South. It's been really positive, and I've really enjoyed the work I've done. However, there is a really dark cloud hanging over everything. That is CSE, child sexual exploitation, otherwise known as the grooming gangs. Before the election in May, asking for a public inquiry and demanding that this council go forth and have a public inquiry was one of the pledges. One of the pledges that you voted me for. So I just wanted to touch base with you all to say that I haven't forgotten. It is still high priority for us. When I had a look at it, especially against the assurance review carried out by Andy Burnham, I realised that a public inquiry was the only way for us to go. It's the only way we're going to get those answers. We need to know how our children were failed. Who were they? How many? How many children, how many girls have fallen victim to these grooming gangs? What's going to happen? Who's going to be held accountable? And who were the perpetrators? So all those questions, you and I need answering. And I'm going to go every step of the way to make sure we get those answers. And tomorrow, I'm going to put an article up that explains more in detail about the difference between an assurance review and a public inquiry, so that we're under no doubt what we are asking for. So, until then, thank you for listening. Thank you for taking time out of your life to stop and listen to me. But we are together, all of us. We can't do this alone. I can't do this alone. I'm going to need you all to help to make sure that we get justice for our children. I'll be in touch very, very soon. Take care.
Thank you very, very much to Maggie Hurley there from the Royton Independent. If you don't follow them, please do follow them. I look at their Facebook page and I think they've got 400 followers. Thousands of you support them. Thousands of you support them. So, and that I know they communicate through Facebook in the main. So please follow them. Please like their posts and please share. Come on, people. You need to share these posts. We're in this together and it takes you a second to do it. I find it so disheartening. Honestly, I do. I find it really, really disheartening when you don't like and you don't share, but you all listening. Now, forget me. Forget me. I'm my Facebook journey in terms of what I wanted to use it for and how we've used it is all but over. We've exhausted it and I think we're just moving forward. If you check the email I sent to those of you subscribed via Ghost, I just do a newsletter. The subscription's free. It means I can communicate with you. You can see what I'm doing. You can see what I'm saying. But for the likes of Maggie and the Royton Independents, the Sean Crompton Independents, even the Failsworth Independents, or whatever Mark's team will be called. I'm hoping Mark comes back. But you should share their content. You need to like, you need to share, you need to comment, because that's how the algorithm is pushed out, and that's how more and more people find out about it. How did you first find out about me? How did you first find out about me? I'm not prolific on social media. I definitely wasn't when I started this. I had a handful of friends. All I had really was a Twitter account I'd rarely use, an Instagram account I'd use for street art, I think, if anything. And my Facebook account was used for nothing other than just wishing friends happy birthday. Never commented on anything political in my life. But I rolled my sleeves up, taught myself how to use it all, and look where we are. Because we are the only ones who can tell our own stories. We are the only ones who will fight our own causes. And when people like Maggie Hurley and the team from the Royton Independents, many of you have been out with me, leafleting for them, supporting them in the lead up to the election. You've got to share their content. You've got to like their content. You've got to share their content. And you know what I despise? And I use that word with intent, despise. Because I can sense it with some. Not you per se, definitely not any of you who've been on this journey with me. But I can sense it in a wider context. And that's something called envy. They look at the content of Maggie or look at the content of some of the others who are sticking their neck out, and they'll read it. They won't like it, they won't comment on it, but then they'll talk about it, or they'll copy and paste it and try and rewrite it as their own or pass it off. No. These are our leaders. We have elected them, and it is our responsibility to stand beside them and amplify. They will amplify our voices, but we need to give them the platform. So please, every one of you, take a moment to go away to the Royton Independence Facebook page and the Sean Crompton Independence Facebook page and follow those pages. Yes. For many of us who don't live in those wards, it's the most important thing we can do. So please, support Mark Ince, support Maggie Hurley, and support Sandra over in Failsworth, and hopefully her and her team will have a new Facebook. Well, they've got the Failsworth Matters, haven't they? Thank you, Susan. If you've already shared it, my apologies for the... I didn't mean it as a lecture, but my apologies. Just give me a second. I just need to lift this chair up a bit. Okay. Are we all here? Yeah, there's 100 of you with me. Let's get on with today's transmission. A car firebombed, death threats and claims of cover-ups. The murky world of toxic politics in Oldham. And I quote, I think a lot of what goes on in Oldham sends shivers down the spine of those outside of the borough. By Charlotte Green, your local democracy reporter. There's a nice picture there of Sean Fielding, AROOJ Shah and Amanda Chadderton. Now, before we continue, Charlotte Green is the BBC-funded local democracy reporter who is neck-deep herself in the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of our town's children. She contacted me some months ago with a list of absurd questions, and it was clear to anyone reading it, and I did a transmission on it, where I ripped apart every one of her. They weren't questions, they were allegations, absurd allegations, as to where her loyalties lie. So what Charlotte Green now writes shouldn't surprise any one of you. Not per se what she writes, but also the way she writes it and what she omits. Now, what you need to understand, and this is one of the main reasons they want to get rid of people like me, is they want to control the narrative. They want to control the narrative. So if there's any criticism of the council or anyone in power, they want to be the ones who tell it. Now remember, this is a BBC funded post. The same BBC that covered up for Jimmy Savile. So that's where your local democracy service is funded from. It's funded by the BBC. And Charlotte Green, so there's no ambiguity, was given every opportunity to help clear the name of an innocent man, and that man's name is Warren Bates, 84 years old, former Oldham councillor, where Harry Caffrell and his team of goons that run the council alleged that Warren Bates had harassed and abused Charlotte Green, and the police visited Warren with a letter with both the Oldham Council logo and Greater Manchester Police's logo on, banning him for over a year from council meetings, making him into some sort of pariah. Charlotte Green was made aware that the council had been making allegations on her behalf. All Charlotte Green had to do, bear in mind she's a reporter with thousands of followers on Twitter, all she had to do was issue a statement confirming that the allegations made by Oldham Council on her behalf were nothing but outright lies. And they were outright lies because this interaction was supposed to have happened outside the council meeting that I went to and many of you went to, and we witnessed the exchange between Charlotte Green and Warren Bates, and there was nothing untoward about it, because if there had been, I would have intervened. I remember Charlotte Green bouncing off with a little rucksack on her back. No one harassed her, no one intimidated her, yet the council and the police fabricated an allegation. Why? To harass an old man? To criminalise a pensioner? And Charlotte Green was made aware, and all she had to do was speak truth. And even on something as simple as that, she failed. So I say to my people, how can she be trusted? How can the Manchester Evening News be trusted? How can any of them be trusted? Remember, I was arrested by Greater Manchester Police on behalf of AROOJ Shah. On behalf of AROOJ Shah, a fabricated charge. Completely fabricated, dragged out of my house. Dragged into a police cell. Put under house arrest for 6 months. And when it finally went in front of a judge in a way in which they would have to look at the evidence, the Crown Prosecution Service dropped the case because AROOJ Shah ran away. This is the leader of the council, ran away from testifying. And you know what's outrageous? More so than everything that was done to me was the way in which Charlotte Green and her newspapers reported it all in the lead up. But when this case collapsed, and AROOJ Shah's lies would have been exposed in a courtroom, and you're now once again Pakistani leader of this council, ran away from the courtroom, and the case collapsed. Charlotte Green was nowhere to be seen. Nor was the Oldham Times, the Manchester Evening News, the Oldham Chronicle, none of them. The pyjama-wearing Ponce from the Mill, Joshie Herman, Tortoise Media, national media publication, international media who'd all been involved in harassing me, nowhere to be seen. Nowhere to be seen. And that is why it's important that we tell our own stories. It's why it's important that we tell our own stories. And do you know what? We are more than capable of holding our own. As the last 5 years have shown, we are more than capable of holding our own. Yes, you were there, Tony. And you, Gary. And that's exactly what happened, wasn't it, Gary? So Charlotte Green has been mobilised to spin the narrative as the establishment see fit. Because that's what we're fighting here. Charlotte Green has been mobilised. Let's have a look at what she had to say. Oldham has come under the microscope in recent years for a political melodrama. Melodrama. These are the lives of my townsfolk. And she uses the word melodrama. That has seen 3 successive leaders dethroned amid swirling social media conspiracy theories. Straight away she's claiming we're lying. Conspiracy theories. Which of these are conspiracy theories? The cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of our town's children. Is that a conspiracy theory? That Shabir Ahmed, the ringleader of the Rochdale grooming gangs, worked for Oldham Council and had access to vulnerable children and families. Is that a conspiracy theory? That postal vote fraud is widespread in this town. That the council have been involved in dodgy land sales in the lead up to elections. That AROOJ Shah, the then at the time deputy leader, then leader, now once again leader after being ousted, hangs off the arm of a dangerous criminal. Is that a conspiracy theory? Is it conspiracy theories as to why neither the police, nor the CPS, nor the mainstream media reported on Rod Blythe, councillor 20 years plus, and his conviction for child sex exploitation? Is that a conspiracy theory? Was he convicted? Yes, he was. Did they report on it? No, they did not. Is it a conspiracy theory that Jim McMahon, the MP and then council leader, is neck deep in this scandal? Is it a conspiracy theory that Debbie Abrahams is on the payroll of the Pakistani government? Is it a conspiracy theory that the police in this town have been politicised and have attempted repeatedly to shut down lawful discussion and debate and have been politically influenced to such an extent they have multiple times attempted to interfere in elections? Is that a conspiracy theory? Tell me, what's the conspiracy theory? It's like the repeated claims that I am a far-right activist and a racist. We cannot ever remain silent to these claims, because otherwise these claims, these lies about us and our people become the narrative that the rest of the country, the rest of the world sees. And that's why it's important you like and share Maggie Hurley, Councillor Maggie Hurley of the Royton Independents. That's why you applaud Lewis Quigg and Dave Arnott when they stand up as part of a mainstream political party and still have the courage to challenge what is going on in this town. Charlotte Green, of course, has blocked me on social media, and no doubt, well, if not her, plenty of peers in the mainstream media, after attempting to ridicule me and abuse me and harass me, have been going to the police, wanting to have me arrested. Remember, these are the newspapers that falsely, maliciously fabricated a headline that I had been arrested as part of a child sex exploitation investigation. I think that, Evan, is as fair a description of Warren as we can have. As wild as a beetroot, but very knowledgeable, clever, dedicated, and does not tell lies. No, he's not a liar. I felt for him. I felt for him all year, because his democratic right to attend these council meetings have been denied to him. Why? Because he's a nuisance. Is that right, Harry Caffrell? He's a nuisance. A tax-paying, lifelong Oldhamer is a nuisance because he refuses to remain silent to injustice. I've not got past the first line. I've not got past the first line. And indeed, Gary, melodrama. The sexual exploitation of our children, the gang rape of our girls is a melodrama. Its politics has frequently been branded as toxic. Toxic by who? Frequently been branded as toxic. Toxic by who? And why toxic? And most recently described as definitely something that's not right or normal by its current leader. Remember, this current leader hangs off the arm of a convicted heroin dealer. Is that something that's right or normal? You can argue with me about whether it's right or not, but it sure as hell isn't normal. Toxic. Toxic, toxic. On the day AROOJ Shah was re-elected as a councillor, Muhammad Imran Ali, Irish Imi, was being convicted in a court for breaching a restraining order that he got for going online and sharing with his mobster associates that his scouts were following me. Following me what? Whilst I had, at the time, what, a 3-year-old in my car with me? Gangsters were following me around? He claimed I was gay. Why? To try and ostracize me, dehumanize me, have me denounced in the community where being gay is one short of a death sentence. And how did I respond? I said it would not even matter if I was gay. It's no one's business. Toxic. Toxic. There's nothing more toxic than heroin. Convicted heroin dealer. She has me blocked after her failed attempt to write a hatchet piece on me, Raymond. Mate, unfortunately, being gay in this day and age, in the community I come from, think it's, if I'm honest with you, and I'm thinking, this me pausing is me reflecting, if I'm honest with you, the community where I was raised, being gay is probably worse than being a rapist. Than being a sex offender. Remember, the chairman of the mosque at the time that I come from, the mosque, Oldham Central Mosque chairman at the time, was a convicted sex offender. He went to prayers with a tag round his ankle. And now, even though they've removed him, still in every meeting I've been to, he sits at the top table alongside Abdul Jabbar, Councillor Abdul Jabbar, Councillor Mohan Ali, and Councillor Nazrul Islam. And not one of them can say I'm a liar because I've seen them sat next to him. Political heads of Oldham Council have experienced death threats. No, they haven't. If they have, convict the people who threatened them. Convict them. Show us the death threats. Charge them and convict them, and we will support you. Because from the beginning we have been clear. From the beginning we have been clear. We will win this war through democratic means, at the ballot box, raising awareness, educating our people, leading by example, being courageous in the face of tyranny, and exercising our democratic mandate to vote, growing our own leaders, and voting them in. The only people who've experienced death threats are us. Openly, repeatedly. My sister's car was tampered with. The police refused to even go out and look. Her husband's car was tampered with. They live in the community. Their cars were tampered with. Why? One's a bloody taxi driver or an Uber driver who was working in a factory at the time. My sister works in a school. They had toddlers as children. Greater Manchester Police refused to go out and look at cars that were tampered with. My terminally ill mother was called repeatedly a prostitute in graphic detail by the brother of a councillor, and Greater Manchester Police refused to interview him. And do you know what they said? He didn't make the threat directly to her. Well, I'm sorry if an 80-something-year-old old woman isn't on Facebook, but it's okay for these people to put up a photograph and go into graphic detail that she was a prostitute. Why? To discredit me, to harass me, to intimidate me. These are the actions of the Labour Party and its supporters. Where was your story there, Charlotte Green? Political heads of Oldham Council have experienced death threats and regular abuse. The only person convicted to date, by the way, is Irish MBE. While councillors described being called pedos. Who called any councillor a pedo? The only reference I've got to someone claiming he was called a pedo is Councillor Stephen Bashforth. That's the same Councillor Stephen Bashforth who's a self-declared bootlegger. Self-declared bootlegger. Who described an encounter that his wife had with two elderly women who are here. One of them definitely is Denise. And made it sound as though she was being harassed and abused, and the video evidence clearly showed otherwise. Who called these councillors as pedos? No one called these councillors pedos. The only pedo that any councillor that might have been made reference to is Rod Blythe, and Rod Blythe was convicted for child sex exploitation offences that they tried to keep secret. Apparently called pedos by people on the doorstep. And social media piles on, which also targeted family and friends, were 2 years ago, a leader's car was firebombed outside her home. It wasn't firebombed outside her home, was it though? Or was it? Tell us if it was. Because from what I've seen of the video evidence that was hidden by Greater Manchester Police, hidden by the mainstream media, until we released it, until I released it, that car doesn't look like it was parked outside her home. I like this. Death in the Asian community for being gay. Evidence, please, kid. Well, tell us what, mate. Tell me what. You go to the Asian community with a rainbow flag on. Show me a single gay couple living in the Asian community. Show me one. Show me a single gay couple. 2 men or 2 women living together openly in any of our Asian communities. Show me one in Calder. Show me one in Windrush, in Coppice, in Glodick. Show me one. Show me one who's been killed or something. Do one. The way this works is you should understand that the fact that people won't come out gay is because they're fearful of their lives. It doesn't work the other way around. And the reason why I'm here and you're not is because I am not going to go and slap someone in the face. Because that's what many of these people would want. I have been far more effective. Far more effective. Than anyone who wants to use their fists and behave like some sort of gangster. Far more effective. Let's carry on. Thank you, Nikki. Two years ago, a leader's car was firebombed outside her home. Well, why haven't the police arrested someone and charged someone? People use the word toxic a lot. Actually, people don't use the word toxic a lot. The council and its supporters use the word toxic a lot to try and shut us down. But it fits because it is poisonous. A serving Oldham Labour member tells the MEN. What on earth is a serving Oldham Labour member? And why are they allowed to be quoted in this newspaper article? Is it someone that serving Oldham Labour member? Is it someone who's a member of the Labour Party and pays £2 or £3 a month or £10 a month or whatever it is? Why is their view and opinion relevant? Oldham Labour member tells the MEN. Do you see how they slipped that in? Like Westminster, Local authorities have their own scandals, upheavals and election socks. Oh, so it's okay. If it's going on elsewhere, it's okay. But many people involved in the region's politics see the borough, once the beating heart of England's industrial revolution, as an anomaly within Greater Manchester. What on earth are you on about? Once the beating heart of England's industrial revolution. Oh, so because we are once the beating heart of England's industrial revolution, you know why we were the beating heart of England's industrial revolution? Because of people like us. Because of strong northern men and women like us. I think a lot of what goes on in Oldham sends shivers down the spine of those outside of the borough. Says one Labour councillor in a neighbouring GM authority. How dare they? How dare they judge us from the outside looking in and then remain anonymous? I think a lot of what goes on in Oldham sends shivers down the spine of those outside of the borough. Why? Am I hiding from anyone? Are we the gangsters? Are we the convicted criminals? What? All we've wanted from the outset is for the council to honour the words it repeats all the time. Honesty, integrity, transparency. I think generally it is more toxic than other places. Big, bold, inverted commas. This is an outrageous smear on the people of my town who've done nothing other than stand up for the children who have been gang raped. This is an outrageous smear by a BBC funded by your own money, tax-paying, BBC funded local democracy reporter. In last month's local elections, the Conservative Party saw more than 1,000 of their seats wiped out across England, including losing control of Bolton's Town Hall, with Labour making significant gains. But in Oldham, the trend was reversed. The trends were reversed. The Tories increased their presence to become the largest opposition group on the council benches, and Labour were reduced down to 32 councillors, the fewest elected in the borough since 2010. And aren't I chuffed with that? Aren't I chuffed with that? It is peculiar, isn't it? If you look at what happened to the Tories across the whole country, why did they gain seats in a place like Oldham? That should tell you something, one serving opposition councillor says. There is a different thing happening in Oldham because people aren't happy. I think generally it is more toxic than other places, and I do poke my nose into other places. What's toxic? One former councillor. See, yet to hear a single name, yet to hear a single person. This is the type of article that Neil Willaboobies would be proud of when he looks in his mirror and quotes himself as a source. One former councillor was particularly amazed at the political swing in Hollingwood, a place he had believed to be a Labour ward through and through, which went from 3 Labour members to all blue in a clean sweep for the Tories. Did I not call it long before that the Conservatives were going to do well in Hollingwood? Was I not here encouraging all of you? I know Yvonne Eric lives in Hollingwood, saying it doesn't matter if these are Asian faces, if they got the Conservative blue banner and they're standing against Labour, we need to support them. In any other setting, working class white people going and voting for Asian candidates would be considered, portrayed, reported as something pioneering, positive, a clear demonstration of how far a town like ours had come. Not here. They were amazed at the political swing in Hollingwood. Well, let's look at the councillors in Hollingwood, shall we? One was famous for chasing fire engines on his push bike. The other one got in there because he wanted to fight the Tories on national issues and is the son of a Labour Party politician in Royton who was also ousted and just happened to work for Jim McMahon, the MP. And the last one, Hannah Roberts, was parachuted in from Delft. My understanding is the 3 Asian lads live in and around the area that they are representing. And the other thing that took place, if you want me to analyse it, the other thing that took place is that the Conservatives out-cartelled, out-identity politics played the Labour Party in Hollingwood. And Cameron Gaffer and his team, and Cameron had stood in the by-election, by the way, and only lost by what? 70 votes, 80 votes? So why are you amazed? Even the by-election, the lad only lost by 70 or 80 votes that he won. When you had a proper lead-up to the election. If Charlotte Green was interested in democracy, she would have made reference to the postal votes, done an analysis on the polling booths, boxes, and the polling stations and where the votes came from, and compared them to past years. Because that's what I would have done if I was interested. But that's not what they're interested in. They reckon it's the toxicity. What I'm saying is the white councillors in Hollingwood failed to represent Hollingwood, and the white Labour Party traditional support has had enough. And the Asian councillors were able to galvanise support in their Asian communities, because in the Asian communities the badge, the rosette you wear, is secondary to the person who stands. I think there is a good potential for the council to go into no overall control next year, he adds. Lottery numbers I want off that lad. Just a fragile two-seat majority. Fragile two-seat majority now stands between the Labour Party and that prospect. And the borough is also now under new leadership for the 4th time in 3 years. Okay. Why no reference to how we would have got it into no overall control if it hadn't been for the civil war in Failsworth? Or the 17 candidates in Coldust, of which one, I'm reliably informed, was paid to stand. Paid to stand. And this is not new. The Labour Party unlawfully interfering in elections is not new. Warren Bates will testify that Sean Fielding paid him to stand against Mark Wilkinson in a hope to split the independent vote. Paid for his leaflets. Warren Bates will testify that in a court, but the police won't investigate it any more than they would investigate Sean Fielding's abuse of power in trying to get people sacked. The man's name was Detective, or is Detective Inspector Kenny Blaine. He described himself as the gatekeeper, the council gatekeeper. Well, what do gatekeepers do? They protect those behind the gates. A job with a warning label. In 2013, a trio of budding Labour darlings. I'm sick. A trio of budding Labour darlings. No. A trio of Jim McMahon's stooges. But notice the complete omission of McMahon here. A trio of budding Labour darlings. Sean Fielding, AROOJ Shah and Amanda Chadderton jointly won the Local Government Information Unit's coveted Young Councillor of the Year award. Who covets it? Who covets it? And who else has won it that has then gone on to be wow? Ten years later, all three have experienced the brutal highs and lows of politics, with each taking on and subsequently losing the Oldham leadership. Mr. Fielding took up the top job in 2018, but lost his Failsworth West seat in 2021. Miss Shah would go on to replace him, during which time her car was firebombed outside her home. Do you think it's important, I think it's important for clarification whether she parked her car outside her house. But Charlotte Green must have seen the video footage. Do you think it's relevant that the car firebombed in one of the highest car crime areas in the country, I think, OL4, the postcode, in terms of how car insurances work? Do you think it's important, relevant, that the car had been left unlocked? Do you find anything remotely suspicious of how, after these lads had doused the seats in whatever liquid they had, they thought, ooh, yo bro, we need to do something to make it look like we broke in, don't we? Oh yeah, I'll smash the window now, bro. Or is there a different reason why they decided to smash the window afterwards? Why has Charlotte Green, nor anyone at the MEN, ever reported or questioned the content of that video? But was herself defeated in Chadderton South at the next election. Just 4 weeks ago, Miss Chadderton became the latest electoral casualty, coming just 21 votes short of retaining her seat in Royton South Ward. Notice the omission. While she might have come 21 votes short of retaining her seat, she finished third in the three Labour Party candidates. She was the least popular of the Labour Party vote. Now, I find that interesting. As an analyst, I find that interesting. How was it that people went into that polling station, put an X next to Steve Bashforth, Marie Bashforth, the two other Labour Party candidates that did get elected, but refused to put an X alongside Amanda Chadditon's name. Could it have been perhaps another omission by Charlotte Green? And she was in the room. She was in the very council chamber when this happened. Could it have been perhaps because Amanda Chadditon stood up and made that infamous speech that we can't say it's destroyed lives? Could it have been perhaps that an apology just hours before the election was too little too late for the people of Royton? The time before, where Amanda Chadditon had been elected as a Royton South candidate, she had got the most votes than when Marie Bashforth got elected or Steve Bashforth got elected. So she went from being the most popular Labour Party councillor in Royton South to the least popular. She blocked a public inquiry, calls for a public inquiry, like her previous predecessors. Could the common denominator perhaps be our refusal to turn away, to turn and look the other way, whilst our children were gang raped? Residents may now be experiencing a sense of deja vu as Ms Shah, who won back a seat in St Mary's Ward, has returned to head up the authority for a second time. Okay. AROOJ Shah did not stand in front of the members in St Mary's, as would normally be the case, and the members would vote in their three candidates, as happened elsewhere. She was imposed on St Mary's. The Labour Party put her there, back in Glodick. They moved Miah MBE out to make way for AROOJ Shah. It's relevant because this is what's unusual. This is not the norm in a democracy. Why has Charlotte Green never written on that? But the job comes with a warning label. Semicolon. I always like when people use a semicolon. Both Ms Chadditon and Ms Shah have spoken publicly about receiving death threats, campaigns of harassment, and needing police protection during their tenures. During his leadership stint, Mr. Fielding said a group of protesters had gathered outside his home and intimidated his partner, as Debbie Barrett called a disabled pensioner with a loudhailer. Do you see how they spin the story? Charlotte Green knows what had happened. And while she's found one specific bit of evidence, I use the term loosely, but one case where something did happen, not as she describes it, or as Mr. Fielding describes it, but notice the death threats, campaign of harassment and needing police protection. There's no quantifiable evidence about any of that. Do you notice the absence of that? A former Oldham councillor, again nameless, says that the style of politics has changed drastically in the last few years and not for the better. So it was better, was it? Whilst you covered up the grooming and gang rape of our town's children, it was better, was it? Whilst our public assets were sold in a dodgy way to people in exchange for votes, it was better, was it? Were serving councillors were able to step down and retreat without a word being said because they've been caught in an Interpol sting, I think it was. For child sex exploitation. Was that better? Was it better when you were not accountable? Councillors from all parties represented on the council, Labour, Conservative, Liberal, Democrat and Failsworth Independents, have spoken about being subjected to abuse whilst in their elected roles. Indeed, Brian Hoban has been abused whilst in his elected role because Brian Hoban is a liar. I don't remember Hindle or Lucia being abused. Which Conservatives have spoken out? Which Conservatives have spoken out? The Liberal Democrats, why have you omitted this, Charlotte Green? The Liberal Democrat leader, Howard Sykes, leaked the personal details of a member of the public to Neil Wilby, a malicious blogger and proven liar. Was that? But now, over the last 2 years, to be honest, I haven't particularly enjoyed it, the former councillor. He says, the first few years were quite good. You could do stuff, and it was just political. What on earth does that mean? You could do what? What could you do? Go to brothels and no one would bat an eyelid. I don't know. What could you do? Sell a swimming baths. Take a brown envelope from here. What? What could you do? You could do stuff and it was just political. I'm afraid. I'm trying to understand what this former councillor means. The first few years were quite good. You could do stuff and it was just political. So what he's describing is there was no accountability to the public. You could just do stuff. Remember, the head planning, Steve Irvine, I think the head of planning was suspended for gross misconduct and then later resigned and off he went without anything ever coming out. The former chief executive and the entire leadership team ran away. But now you spend 50% of your time having to refute baseless, wild allegations against your party. What's baseless and what's wild, mate? Quantify one of the wild allegations against individuals because of a toxic culture towards the council as a whole on social media. Well, show us. What are the allegations against your party? I've yet to come across anything here. Anyone? No? Anyone found any wild allegation? What are the wild allegations? Council leader AROOJ Shah adds, so the only councillor on record in this entire article so far is now council leader AROOJ Shah. The fact that people are scared of engaging with democracy because of the way they've been treated is not right. Well, who is scared of engaging with democracy? The only people who've been prevented from engaging in democracy are the ones you unlawfully issued ASBIs to. Your council unlawfully issued ASBIs to. Where are the people that are scared of engaging with democracy? Such a statement needs to be evidenced. Where is the evidence of people being scared of engaging with democracy? People are voting in record numbers. People have been voting in record numbers. Where is the evidence to quantify AROOJ Shah's claim that people are scared of engaging with democracy? Well, maybe people are scared of engaging in democracy around you, AROOJ Shah, because you hang off the arm of a convicted gangster. but the evidence across the rest of the town shows a greater number of people engaging in democracy. There is a unique issue in Oldham. The way I see it, it's true that's probably not normal, but we have to focus on the most important things. I'm not going to give up on my town or its people for the sake of a small minority who are seeking to divide us. So the unique issue, what is the unique issue? What is the unique issue? Is it me, AROOJ SHAH? Is it a man who your mate Jim McMahon tried to put in prison falsely, maliciously, who's continued to lie? Is it me? That your convicted heroin dealing mobster has been repeatedly convicted in the court of law for crimes against me? Is it the people here who are refusing to remain silent to the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of our town's children? Are we trying to divide this town by standing up for justice? Are we trying to divide this town by refusing to look the other way whilst postal vote fraud takes place in this town? Are we supposed to smile and hold our hands out begging for our turn for our handout, whilst those who can deliver votes are prioritised? What is the unique issue? And what evidence have you got of any of us attempting to divide us? In fact, we are the ones who've been repeatedly called racist and far-right activists. You and your kind have attempted to demonise the very people you are meant to represent. Has anyone seen the photographs of AROOJ SHAH since he was elected? Where are her photographs with the Bangladeshis of St. Mary's? Where are her photographs with the African Caribbean community in St. Mary's? Where are her photographs of the white working class in St. Mary's? That's exactly what it is, mate. It's a relentless attempt to gaslight us. Allegations swirling on social media. The source of the toxic culture in Oldham's politics is multifaceted. One councillor suggests. Which councillor? Who? No one knows. Much of it stems from allegations of a cover-up of grooming and child sex exploitation in the borough, which began circulating widely on social media in 2018. Notice how she cannot even bring herself to say my name. Miah MBE. Child of Oldham. My family live in Oldham. My friends live in Oldham. It's my hometown. Decorated. Anti-racist. That has spent over 20 years of his life protecting children and safeguarding our communities from extremists and terrorists. That's who I am, Charlotte Green. Greater Manchester Police can drag me out of my house as many times as I want. I am true to my values and my convictions and my beliefs. An independent assurance review. She doesn't quantify how the independent assurance review was far from independent or why it's even described as independent, but these people don't, do they? Into the issue was commissioned in 2019 and finally published last summer. The report was damning of failures by both police and council to protect vulnerable young people from abuse in the years 2011 to 2014. So it just shows it looked at a 3-year window. That was it. And in a specific case dating back to 2005. However, the review team found no evidence of a widespread cover-up of sexual exploitation. Notice the word widespread. They have introduced the word widespread. However, the review team found no evidence of a widespread cover-up of sexual exploitation. That means there was a cover-up, but it was not widespread. Otherwise, they would not use the adjective widespread. They would simply say the review team found no evidence of a cover-up of sexual exploitation. The word widespread means there was a cover-up. So let's have it. Charlotte, do you not believe that we have a right to know how many children were groomed and gang raped during that period? I'm not happy with the assurance review at all. But are you telling me the assurance review did not know how many children were groomed and gang raped? Or they know and they won't tell us? And why the word widespread? Because widespread clearly demonstrates there was a cover-up. But it wasn't widespread. So what's widespread? Is it 2? Were there 2 cover-ups? Is it 20 cover-ups? Is it 200 cover-ups? At what point do we accept and the number to quantify the definition of the word widespread? It's amazing what people believe because it's on Facebook and elected member ads. Who the elected member is, no one knows. That creates a background, and I have been subjected to some of that. Well, if you see what I have shared on Facebook and other social media platforms, including here, is that I bring the samosas. I bring the evidence and the analytical skills. So they don't believe it just because it's on Facebook. They believe it because it's been articulated in a way with the evidence. And they also believe it because of the reaction of the councillors themselves to the evidence. What did Sean Fielding do? Stood up and marched every councillor out of the council chamber 2 times, 3 times, rather than answer a question about Shabir Ahmed that's now been proven to be true? What did he then stand up and do? Barefaced lies. I repeat, barefaced lies. What did AROOJ SHAH do? This motion will be voted down. What did Amanda Chaddison do? And what's McMAHON done all the time? Once the assurance review found, and I'll quote this, once the assurance review found damning failures by both police and council to protect vulnerable young people from abuse in the years 2011 to 2014, do you know what? You do know what James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon and Debbie Abrahams did? An adjournment debate in Parliament where they named me a far-right racist. And we're racists. A report is published confirming the cover-up, although not widespread, but the cover-up and the failures to protect our children from being groomed and gang raped. The most prolific gangland grooming gangmaster, Shabir Ahmed, the most infamous, worked for the council, seconded to the Pakistani centre. Report shared stories of children being dragged off the street into these shisha bars. And what? Our MPs go to Parliament and use parliamentary privilege to attack us, the people of this town and try and demonise us as racists and far-right activists. It isn't just the CSE stuff, but that creates an environment in which some pretty outrageous stuff is flying around. Well, what is the pretty outrageous stuff? Again, they don't quantify it. The facts don't matter. It's how people feel that counts. Well, what's the pretty outrageous stuff that's flying about? A Labour councillor describes the environment as hostile, and the far cry from the chamber of yesteryear when they would engage in purely political battles about policy or ideology. Is that when you had about 50 councillors, Mr Labourman? When 50 of the 60 belonged to you? And the others were the Lib Dems and a couple of Saddleworth Conservatives who, you know, looked down at all of you as though you were some dirt off a shoe and hardly engaged in the council chamber. Is that the yesteryear? When there was no opposition? When there was no challenge? When there was no scrutiny? Opposition is not hostile. Asking you questions is not hostile. Holding you to account for the decisions that you make is not hostile. There were fallouts, but it was nothing like what we have now. It's the unrelenting personal lies and accusations. Again, what personal lies and accusations? They've not quantified a single one, have they? They've not given a single example. What's the unrelenting personal lies and accusations? And it's really depressing. They're trying to make themselves into the victims when the victims are our children who've been groomed and gang raped and crimes against them covered up. My family gets upset by it as well. It's awful. The Labour Party openly engaged with a malicious blogger, proven liar, as do the Lib Dems. As he's profiled many of you, named you, took photographs of you and tried to share it and share them online. His only purpose is to harass, intimidate and cause you alarm. We've not done that. He went into graphic detail recently about contacting my daughter's school and going into her mother's career. His sole purpose was to harass and intimidate me and cause me alarm. It's like, we know where you live. In fact, they do know where I live. They posted a picture of my front door of my house repeatedly. Have we done that? Yet these Labour Party politicians will not distance themselves from the malicious blogger and proven liar. Mushtaq was putting up pictures of my brother's wedding, harassing my brother and his wife. What have my brother and his wife done? They don't even sign up or do anything on here. What about my family? What about your family, the families of the people here? Every time a complaint goes to the council, it gets covered up. It's very difficult to actually get on with the job. You can see why people are reluctant to put themselves forward for public office unless they have that mindset and they are bulletproof. Nonsense. You can't get people to put themselves forward for the Labour Party because of what you have done and what you have become. And the people you are getting are disproportionately from the Asian community. This is a mess of your own making. if you just want to get on with a job and work for your community, it's a horrible place to be. No, it's not. Go and work for your community. You voted against the public inquiry into the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of children repeatedly. And people are right to call you out for it. It used to be really rewarding. Why? Why did it used to be really rewarding? But now it's constantly looking over your shoulder. Well, I should hope so. I should hope so. Particularly after the head of planning was suspended for gross misconduct. I should hope many of the politicians in this town are looking over their shoulder. And even being afraid to walk the streets. What utter garbage. What utter garbage. Which streets have you been afraid to walk? They add, see? No names. Online campaigns have taken hold and all the mud they have flung has stuck. It's not mud, mate. If it was mud, I would be in prison. It's not mud. It's altered the face of politics in Oldham. No. What's altered the face of politics in Oldham is that dossier of emails handed over to me, first by Warren Bates and then by Hughie MacDonald, which clearly demonstrated that those in control of this town were fully aware that children in our town were being dragged off the streets and being groomed and gang raped. And instead of warning parents, instead of doing something about it, their focus was to manage it in the name of community relations. Remember, I was going to be prosecuted for releasing those emails. Apparently, they were fabricated. It's just a horrible, grubby thing now. Now, the only thing horrible and grubby is the Labour Party and its council. I reckon there's people outside of Oldham watching what's gone on and will see the same tactics cropping up elsewhere in the country. Absolutely. These kinds of smear campaigns, because it's an effective tactic. There's nothing a smear campaign about this. But to anyone else in other parts of the country, here is my offer to you. Contact me and I will help you. If your children have been groomed and gang raped, if postal vote fraud and the cartels have infiltrated your communities, if convicted gangsters openly promote the Labour Party or any other party, and you want to learn how to take them out, how to stand up to them and defeat them at the ballot box, without being sidelined or ostracized or called racist, and even if you are, to be able to counter that. If you want to fight back and take back control of your towns and your cities and your communities, then contact me. I will help you. That's what you're scared of. That's what the Labour Party is scared of. Because when they fall in Oldham, and they will fall in Oldham, the template will be set to take on tyranny in every other town and community across this country and take our towns and cities back. That is what they fear. However, alongside the social media allegations, there is also a genuine dissatisfaction with how the authority has run services. from planning pothole repairs and contacting residents about council tax arrears. Another veteran councillor believes. Veteran councillor. No name, but you get a description. A veteran councillor. If Oldham Council was a brand, you'd get rid of it. What, not pay £100,000 to a consultancy firm to draw you another nice logo? And controversial decisions and comments that have been made since 2018 have helped heap pressure on the authority. Well, I don't know. Why don't you quantify what the controversial decisions are? See? The current administration over the past 4 or 5 years hasn't done itself any favours, and it just throws a target on them, he says. There are a lot of people out there who are distinctly unimpressed by how the council gets the basics wrong. I know money is tight and we have had cuts, but some of the basic stuff just doesn't work. I have to chase for repairs to things, and it's the little things that people notice. Plenty of services don't cover themselves in glory. If Oldham Council was a brand, you'd get rid of it and call it something else because it's such a hard job to drag it back up again. There are some genuine people out there in the cheap seats. So this is a Brian Hoban quote, I think, who are just frustrated that they don't feel like they are treated properly. And that's nothing to do with politics. People are really fed up and cynical. He points to issues such as poor track record of delivering big regeneration projects and a focus on Oldham Town Centre at the cost of investment in the other districts as affecting residents' faith in their council. The council has been trying to regenerate the Prince's Gate site at Oldham Mumps for the best part of 10 years and confirmed earlier this year that plans for a Lidl store and a hotel, travel lodge, there had been scrapped. A raft of other projects are either in the pipeline or underway, including the relocation of Tommyfield Market into Spindle Shopping Centre, the transformation of the Egyptian Rooms into a food hall, the Northern Routes project for an eco-park, and a new theatre for Oldham Coliseum, which closed in March to the dismay of residents and arts leaders. Well, the last sentence is a lie. The new theatre is not for Oldham Coliseum. It's a performance space that was scheduled separate to Oldham Coliseum. But do you see? They just pass it off. That's all she does. Charlotte Green just passes it off. Councillor Shah admits she agrees with the assessment that the borough's residents feel frustrated about the basics, having heard many people's concerns as she campaigned to be elected back onto the council in St Mary's Ward. It was that, rather than any murky theories about the town hall or the demise of its leaders, that they wanted to talk with her, she says. Murky theories. What murky theories? What are the murky theories? That little white girls were dragged off the streets by Pakistanis on the council payroll? That's Shabir Ahmed. On the council's payroll, and he's a Pakistani. Whilst he was seconded at Glodick Community Centre. Is that a murky theory? That shisha bars, one of those shisha bars, I'm certain, I've written about it, was owned by a councillor at the time. Was he not dragged through the courts? For having, what was the claim? Consensual sex with some 16-year-old kid or something that he hired on her first day. And the council then bought the building and knocked it down as part of the trams, even though the building wasn't actually on the tram station. What's murky? I agree with you, Gary. It's the assurance review that's murky. I've heard these things on the doorstep too. There are concerns around issues like non-delivery of projects and a loss of services, Councillor Shah adds. And to be completely honest, I think people are sick of hearing about austerity, and that's the reason why things don't happen. Even though there's a good reason why some of those projects didn't happen or take place. No, you just gave £1 million to a football club off the back of some conversations days before an election in Royton, hoping that it would have a positive impact on your election. You just gave £1 million to a private business. Now, I don't care if you're an Oldham Athletic fan, and I'm happy for you. But the council found £1 million, didn't they? For a private business. This has never been about money. It's been about where you're spending the money. It's a poor town. We all know how to budget. It's when we look around and see what you're prioritising. An eco park. No one gives a damn about your eco park. No one wants to go glamping in Glodick or skinny dipping in the Snipe. They don't want to see £100 million spent on creating a venue where outdoor concerts happen and all the druggies from all over the country rock up to trash. They don't want park life in Oldham. They definitely don't want skinny dipping in the Snipe. And I've yet to come across anyone that wants to go glamping in Glodick. Gay, straight or otherwise. But what I think people really want to know is their reality. They see their local service disappearing, they see a library going, and they see a community centre going. Well, all of that could have been funded by the £1 million you just gave to the football pitch, the football club. And they think, why can't you play with the hand that you've been dealt? I completely understand that, and for me it's about really listening to Oldham's people and trying to shape all our services with their insight at the heart of it. Just gobbledygook nonsense. We've got huge plans for the future. No one wants huge plans. We just want little modest plans. Small plans that you can deliver on. No one's asking for huge plans. But they've got huge plans for the future and regeneration plans that are second to none. I'm sure you have. I'm sure you've got plan after plan after plan. Really exciting things that are going to happen. Well, what are they? What are these plans? Hopefully getting the basics right and fixing potholes and emptying bins on time and responding to people's needs will start building people trust and confidence. No, she still doesn't get it. The only way you're going to start restoring people's confidence is by doing two things, AROOJ SHAH. One is confirming the nature of your relationship with the convicted heroin dealing getaway driver of the Oldham cop killer Dale Gregan, Irish Immy, and accepting that what any relationship you have with him is wrong for someone in your public position, and choosing him or public service. You can't have both. And the second thing, to restore people's trust and confidence, is calling out Jim McMahon and his role, and you won't do that, as his time during leader, and demanding the government launch a public inquiry, a no-holds-barred public inquiry into the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of this town's children. No pothole fixing is going to build back trust when those two issues remain. People are looking to us for answers, and we have to have those answers. They will start seeing projects delivered like the Egyptian Room and the food market and the theatre. All that will happen, but until that happens, I have to accept that there will be that cynicism. It's my job that my actions speak louder than words. Your actions do speak louder than words. The photographs of you with exclusive groups of Pakistani men whilst previously screaming misogyny clearly speaks louder than words. Controversies show no sign of slowing. The reputational risk of Oldham's toxic politics and its struggle to reinvent itself through ambitious schemes poses the biggest danger to the people who call it home, the councillor believes. Ambitious schemes, Ambitious schemes. It's affecting people's lives and jobs in Oldham, he adds. That's the really scary stuff. People's lives and people's jobs, Do you think leaking details of people's details to a malicious blogger affects people's lives? Do you think the leader of the council contacting people's employers and trying to have them sacked, lying to their employers on official council letter-headed paper and official council emails and trying to have people sacked, do you think that has affected their jobs? But the controversies around the borough's politics have shown no sign of slowing, even before the municipal year has truly picked up steam. In particular, the public spotlight is back on returning council leader Shah's ongoing friendship with former convicted criminal Mohammed Imran Ali, widely known as Irish Himmy. He was convicted in 2013 for assisting Dale Cregan by driving him to Leeds after his murder of gangland rival David Short in 2012. While on the run, Cregan lured PC's Fiona Bourne and Nicola Hughes to an address in Tameside after making a bogus report of a burglary. Ali has also been convicted of a number of other crimes, including drug trafficking and assault. He attended the Oldham Local Council count on May the 5th and was pictured celebrating Councillor Shah's win in the Queen Elizabeth Hall along with other Labour campaigners. Nothing about how he had just been convicted that morning, but let me go back to Charlotte Green's sentence slightly earlier. While on the run, Cregan lured PC's Fiona Bourne, 32, and Nicola Hughes, 23, to an address in Tameside after making a bogus report of a burglary. Do we not think it's important as to what he did it to these two young police officers after luring them there? Why have you omitted what happened, Charlotte Green? Why have you omitted that Cregan is a cop killer? You see? No mention of the brutal murder. Exactly, Tony. Councillor Shah's association with Ali is understood to have been a point of difference in the internal leadership contest which took place in the days after Ms Chadderton lost her seat. An ex-councillor believes the ongoing friendship has affected how people view the council. Oh, wow! Well done to that ex-councillor. Whoever that ex-councillor is, well done to them. Believes the ongoing friendship has affected how people view the council and its leadership. From a borough-wide perspective, there is quite a lot of toxicity towards her in relation to the friendship, to the friends that she keeps, he adds. I think that's true, isn't it, Gary? Reports like this by Miss Charlotte Green only galvanise our resolve. It's a red rag to a bull. Members of Oldham Labour, who are the members of Oldham Labour? See, no names. Say they have also expressed concerns about some of the associations of the leader posing an issue for the group. Some of the associations. So who are the some? Who are the associations? It's not good and I don't like it, says one council member. When asked about Ali, Councillor Shah referred back to a statement she gave in the council chamber in December 2021 in which she said, I can condemn their individual and personal choices, but I can't condemn them as people. No, she still doesn't get it. front and centre of your campaign. No one's asking you to condemn them as people. But they are front and centre of their campaign. They are campaigning on behalf of the Labour Party. They are knocking on doors, asking for people to vote for you. You are choosing. You are choosing to be in a relationship with these people. It's got nothing to do with condemning people. It's about accepting that with public service, particularly as the leader of the council, you have got to make choices. If I was the leader of the council, there's not a chance in hell any of my friends who are convicted criminals, drug dealers, that I grew up with, would be out knocking on doors, getting people to vote for me. They sure as hell won't be in the council chamber, fist pumping next to me at the count. The word friendship is working hard. I know people from all walks of life, but I'm such a strong believer in rehabilitation. No, your friend was convicted the morning of the count, AROOJ SHAH. Your friend was convicted the morning of the count. These people didn't choose to take the path they did, but lack of opportunities to drive people towards that absolute bullshit. I'm sorry, I'm swearing. Absolute bullshit. Lack of opportunities does not drive people to become heroin dealers. Lack of opportunities does not drive people to violently assault elderly members of the public. Lack of opportunities does not mean that you become the getaway driver of a gangster like Dale Cregan. Lack of opportunities does not mean you become a steroid dealer or a Viagra salesman. Illegal, by the way, at the time. Lack of opportunities. Remember the other one, Zia Hussein, she was with? Lack of opportunities has no bearing on having a young man kidnapped off the streets, tortured in a house, have a broomstick stuck up his backside, video him performing sex acts on someone else, torture him, and when the police turned up, they found blood splattered all over the walls. That has got nothing to do with lack of opportunities. And that is something I've been really honest and open about. I'd like to be judged by my own standards, by my own conduct. Well, you are being judged by your own conduct. You're being judged by who hangs off your arm. Because you have a choice in that. Following this year's boundary review, a third of the council will be up for election next May, but then there will be another year's hiatus until 2025, placing even greater pressure on the ruling group to retain a majority. A dozen Labour councillors who placed third in the all-out contest last month will face re-election. So of the 20 seats that are up next May, 12 of them are Labour. 12 of them are Labour. We know that we've got our work cut out. There is no doubt about it, a Labour member says. Who that Labour member is, who knows. But overall, there is a sense of determination to get it right, to learn from our mistakes, and we've made a few. Well, isn't that an understatement? If you're finding value in this transmission, it's the last of the free Recusant 9 transmissions. Please consider buying me a coffee. There is a link pinned at the top. If you're taking value in these transmissions and one of the 177 of us that are currently viewing with me, then please consider taking out, if you already subscribe, a 99p subscription, because from next week onwards, these transmissions will go behind a paywall. 99p. Wow. It's 11 o'clock. I'm just coming up to 11 o'clock. Is that right? Have I got that right? I've been at this longer than I wanted to be. I've got a lot more to go through. So I think what I'll do is I'll come back. I'll come back at some point tomorrow. I think I'm meeting Eva. She's buying me a meal for my birthday tomorrow evening. So I'm looking forward to having a meal with Eva in the evening. So it won't be in the evening. But I will try and come back at some point tomorrow to get through everything else. I'm sorry I had to do this to Charlotte Green. I've never had a conversation, I don't think, in Charlotte Green. Maybe one. In fact, I have had a conversation with her a long time ago. I think she was very new in the town. It was when the schools was first set up. I have no axe to grind with her. I am deeply disappointed in her because I can tell that she is an intelligent young woman. And it just saddens me. It just saddens me that these people will do these things and demonize my people, my townsfolk, for nothing other than refusing to turn the other way whilst our children are groomed and gang raped. How can I make a can last so long? Probably because I've spent most of my time talking, Gavin. Probably because I've spent 2 hours talking. These cans are Louise, who's normally with us, but I think she's working somewhere. She's very a high-level professional. She sent me a message earlier. She was in Dublin at a conference, but she sent me these cans in the post. So I've got a collection of them. I think I mentioned that they're a treat for me. So I got these cans sent in the post. So I pull one out as a treat every now and then, Evan, and maybe that's why I make them last so long as well. I get the most out of it. Listen, I hope you've enjoyed the transmission. I hope you take value from my work. I know you. No. I'm hoping you're all okay with the 99 pence and you understand my reasons why. And come on, who else is going to do this? And then go to bed every night wondering if there's going to be a bang on my door with the police wanting to drag me away because I've caused offence. Because that's what they're claiming. I've caused offence. Well, this is a democracy. And you being offended by the truth or my analysis of a situation is not unlawful. Thank you very, very much. I'm emotional. I'm emotional because it is the last of the transmissions that are free to her. And I know I'll lose some of you. Come on, it's 99 pence. A month. A month.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.